The moment the church doors opened in Nice, the air didn't smell like flowers. It smelled like victory. I watched my ex-best friend's face go from polite curiosity to absolute blood-draining horror as she realized whose bride I was. She didn't just cry. She turned green and bolted for the exit to vomit. People call it petty. I call it destiny. Because 3 years ago, she slept with my fiancé. So today, I officially became her aunt. If you look closely at the wedding photos, specifically the wide shot taken from the balcony of the Villa of Frucy in Nice, you can see the exact moment the dynamic of my entire life shifted. The setting was perfect. The Mediterranean Sea was a glittering expanse of turquoise behind us. The air smelled of salt and expensive jasmine, and the string quartet was playing a soft, melodic version of Can't Help Falling in Love. I was standing there in a Gallia La Have gown that cost more than my first car, holding the hands of a man who looked at me like I was the only person on the planet, Steve. He was 51, with hair that was salt and pepper perfection and a tuxedo that fit him like armor. He was solid. He was safe. He was the love of my life. But if you zoom in on the fourth row, left side, the family side, you see the chaos. There was Mark, my ex-fiancé. He was wearing a suit that was a little too tight, his hairline receding just enough to satisfy my petty soul. He looked like he had seen a ghost. His mouth was hanging open. A fly could have flown right in and set up shop. And next to him, where my maid of honor should have been in another lifetime, was Olivia, my former best friend, the woman who taught me how to use eyeliner, the woman who held my hand when my grandmother died, the woman who slept with Mark in the bed I bought. In the photo, Olivia isn't looking at me. She's blurry. That's because in that exact shutter click of a second, she was launching herself out of her chair, hand clamped over her mouth, stumbling over her designer heels to find a place to vomit. I didn't smile. I didn't frown. I just squeezed Steve's hands tighter. "You okay?" Steve whispered, his thumb brushing my knuckles. He knew. He knew everything. "Never better," I whispered back. And I meant it. I wasn't doing this for them. I wasn't marrying Steve to twist the knife in their backs. But I'd be lying if I said the sound of Olivia retching in the distance didn't add a certain je ne sais quoi to the ceremony. To understand why a bride would find satisfaction in her niece-in-law's gastric distress, we have to go back. Not just to the cheating, but to the beginning. To the time when Olivia wasn't the villain of my story, but the hero. I wasn't cool. I wasn't even adorable. When I moved to the States at 12 years old, I was a walking, talking panic attack. I came from a rural village in Asia, the kind of place where everyone knows your blood type and your great-grandfather's scandals. Moving to a sprawling American suburb was like landing on Mars. I didn't speak the language well, my accent was thick, my clothes were hand-me-downs from cousins who had better taste than me, and I smelled like the spices my mother cooked with. Middle school is a shark tank. If they smell blood, you're dead. And I was bleeding insecurity. I spent the first 3 weeks eating lunch in a bathroom stall, feet pulled up so no one would see my sneakers. Then came Olivia. She was everything I wasn't. Blonde, loud, confident. She wore Abercrombie & Fitch and knew all the lyrics to the songs on the radio. She found me in the library, hiding behind a stack of encyclopedias. "You're the new girl, right?" she asked, popping a piece of gum. I nodded, terrified. "I like your backpack. It's vintage." It wasn't vintage. It was cheap. But she smiled and she grabbed my hand and she pulled me to her table. From that day on, we were a singular entity, Olivia and me. She corrected my pronunciation without making me feel stupid. She threatened a boy who made fun of my lunch until he cried. She was my shield. We went through high school together, prom together, and college together. We were sisters in every way that mattered. Then came Mark. I met Mark at a burger joint we both worked at during sophomore year of college. He was the chaotic grill cook who always burned the onions. I was the waitress trying to clean up his mess. "You're saving my life again," he'd said one night, wiping grease off his forehead after I covered his shift because he was hungover. I said, "You owe me. I'll buy you dinner. A real dinner, not burgers." He had this lopsided grin that made my knees feel like jelly. He wasn't the smartest guy in the room, but he was funny and he made me feel seen. We fell hard. Fast forward 5 years, we were engaged, living in a duplex he bought, but I furnished, and planning a life. Olivia was thrilled. "My best friend and my favorite guy," she'd squeal, clapping her hands. "I'm going to be the best maid of honor in history." God, the irony is thick enough to choke on. Looking back, the signs were there. The inside jokes I didn't get, the way they would text each other memes late at night, the way Mark would get defensive if I asked why he was helping Olivia move furniture on a Sunday. "She's just a friend, babe. She's your best friend. Don't be crazy." I wasn't crazy. I was blind. But sight has a funny way of returning when you least expect it. It was late July. The humidity in the air was oppressive, the kind that makes your clothes stick to your skin the second you step outside. It was Olivia's father's 60th birthday party. Her dad, Richard, was a wealthy man. The party was at their estate, a massive colonial house with a pool that cost more than my education. Everyone was there: friends, family, business partners. I was wearing a blue sundress Mark had picked out. "You look hot," he'd said in the car, his hand resting on my thigh. "Seriously, best-looking girl there." Liar. The party was in full swing. Mark had been hitting the open bar hard. He was a fun drunk until he wasn't. Around 9 p.m., I lost track of him. I assumed he was by the keg or talking sports with Olivia's cousins. I was sitting at a patio table, nursing a cranberry soda because I was the designated driver. Next to me on the glass table was Mark's phone. He never left his phone. He slept with it under his pillow. He took it into the shower to listen to music. But tonight, he was so wasted he'd forgotten it. It buzzed. I glanced at it. I wasn't snooping, it was just instinct. The screen lit up. A notification from WhatsApp. The contact name was Work, Dave. That was weird. Mark didn't have a coworker named Dave. And even if he did, why was Dave sending a message at 9 p.m. on a Saturday that started with a heart emoji? "Dave, miss you already. Your hands were magic earlier. Can't wait for her to go home so we can talk properly. Heart." My blood ran cold. The music, the chatter, the splash of the pool, it all went silent. All I could hear was the rushing of blood in my ears. I knew the passcode, 1234. Mark wasn't a complex man. My fingers shook as I typed it in. It unlocked. I opened the thread with Dave. I scrolled up. It wasn't Dave. It was Olivia. There were photos, explicit photos. Photos of her in lingerie I had helped her pick out for a date. Photos of them together in my car. Mark, God, you're so much tighter than her. Olivia, don't be mean, LOL. But seriously, when are you going to leave her? I'm tired of sharing. Mark, soon. The duplex needs a few more repairs before I sell it and we can get our own place. Just be patient, baby. Dates. Times. They had been sleeping together for 6 months. 6 months. I felt a physical blow to my stomach, like someone had swung a sledgehammer into my gut. The world tilted. I scrolled past messages where they mocked me. Olivia, did she like the dress? I told Mark to pick the blue one. It makes her look a bit washed out, so I'll look better in the pics. Mark, you always look better. I almost dropped the phone. The betrayal wasn't just sexual. It was emotional. It was a systematic dismantling of my dignity by the two people I loved most in the world. I looked up. Across the lawn, near the pool house, I saw Mark. He was bent over a bush, retching. He had drunk too much tequila. I looked for Olivia. She was by the DJ booth, dancing, laughing, tossing her hair. She looked radiant. She looked like a demon. I couldn't breathe. I needed air, but the air outside was too thick. I needed to hide. I grabbed my purse. I left the phone exactly where it was. I stood up on legs that felt like wooden stilts and walked toward the main house. "Hey, where you gone?" I didn't answer. I walked faster. I entered the house, the air conditioning hitting my sweat-drenched skin like a slap. I found the nearest bathroom, the downstairs guest bath, and locked the door. Then, I slid down the wall and fell apart. I didn't cry cute. I wasn't a movie character with a single tear rolling down a porcelain cheek. I was ugly crying. Heaving sobs, snot, gasping for air. I sounded like a wounded animal. I sat on the cold tile floor, clutching my knee as rocking back and forth. My best friend. My fiancé. My sister. My love. How was I supposed to survive this? I had no family here. My parents were back in Asia. I was alone. I don't know how long I sat there. 10 minutes? An hour? Knock. Knock. I froze. I held my breath, trying to stifle a sob. "Occupied," I choked out, my voice thick and ragged. "Are you okay in there?" It was a man's voice. Deep. Resonant. Not Mark. Not anyone I recognized immediately. "I'm fine," I lied, wiping my face frantically with toilet paper that disintegrated instantly. "Just give me a minute." "You don't sound fine. You sound like you're about to pass out. I'm going to wait right here until you open the door just to make sure you aren't dying." "Please go away," I whispered. "No can do. Host's orders. Or, well, moral obligation. Take your time." I stood up. I looked in the mirror. I looked like a wreck. My mascara had run down to my chin. My eyes were swollen shut. My skin was blotchy. I washed my face with cold water. It didn't help much. I took a deep breath, unlocked the door, and swung it open, ready to tell whoever it was to screw off. I stopped. Leaning against the wall opposite the bathroom door was a god. Okay, maybe not a god, but definitely the most striking man I had ever seen in real life. He was tall, over 6 feet. He wore a linen suit, no tie, top button undone. He had dark hair graying at the temples, a strong jawline, and eyes that were an intense, piercing blue. He looked familiar, but I couldn't place him. He looked at me, his expression shifting from casual concern to genuine alarm. "Whoa," he said softly. "Okay, you are definitely not fine." "I'm fine," I snapped, trying to push past him. Allergies." He gently blocked my path. He didn't touch me, just stepped in front of me. "I've had allergies. That looks more like my life just imploded face." I looked at him, and the kindness in his eyes broke me. The dam burst again. A fresh wave of tears welled up. "It did. My life, it's gone." Hey," he said. He looked around the hallway to make sure we were alone, then guided me toward a small sitting room adjacent to the hall. "Come here. Sit down. Breathe." I sat on a velvet armchair, burying my face in my hands. "I found out my fiancé." I couldn't say it. "He had cheated?" the man asked, his voice devoid of judgment, just factual. I nodded. "He cheated with my best friend." "Ah," he said, a heavy, weary sound. "That's rough." I looked up at him through my tears. "Rough? It's everything. I have nothing. I live with him. She's my only friend. I'm alone." He handed me a pristine white handkerchief from his pocket. It smelled like sandalwood. "You're not alone," he said. "You're just currently in the blast zone. I'm Steve, by the way." "Steve?" I sniffled, wiping my nose. The name clicked. "Olivia's uncle? From London?" "That's me," he gave a wry smile. "The black sheep. The one who only shows up for the big events and drinks the expensive scotch." I remembered him now. Olivia talked about him sometimes. Uncle Steve, the half-brother, the successful architect who lived in Europe. I had met him briefly at her graduation, but he had been surrounded by people. I know who you are," he interrupted gently. "You're the girl who saved Olivia in middle school. She talks about you all the time. Or, well, she used to." His face hardened slightly. "If she did this to you, she's not the girl I thought she was." "She is," I whispered. "She's exactly who she is. I was just too stupid to see it." Steve pulled a chair over and sat facing me. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Listen to me. You are not stupid. You trusted people. That's a virtue, not a flaw. The flaw is on them for breaking it." He looked me dead in the eye. "I know this feeling. My ex-wife left me for my business partner 7 years ago, took the house, the dog, and half the firm. Does it get better?" I asked, desperation in my voice. "It does," he said. "But first it gets worse. You have to walk through the fire. But I can tell you this, you look like someone who's fireproof." We talked for 20 minutes. He was calm, funny, and incredibly grounding. He didn't tell me to get over it. He just let me exist in my misery. "I have to go back out there," I said, eventually, dread pooling in my stomach. "Mark is retching in the bushes. I have to take him home." "Do you?" Steve asked. "You could leave him there." "I can't. I need a plan. I can't just blow it up tonight. I have nowhere to go." Steve nodded slowly. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a card. He wrote a number on the back. "This is my personal cell. I'm in town for 2 weeks, staying at the lake house. If you need a place to escape, or if you just need someone to scream at who's involved, call me. Seriously." I took the card. "Thank you, Steve." "Don't thank me. Just protect yourself. They've shown you who they are. Believe them." I fixed my makeup as best I could. I walked out of that room. I found Mark, cleaned the vomit off his chin, and drove him home. He passed out in the passenger seat, snoring loudly. I drove in silence, the streetlights blurring into streaks of light. I looked at his sleeping face, the face I used to adore. Now all I saw was a stranger. "Just wait," I thought. "Just you wait." The next morning, I woke up before Mark. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan. Usually, I would snuggle into his back. Today, the thought of his skin touching mine made me want to peel my own skin off. He woke up groaning. "Ugh, my head. Did I throw up?" "Yeah," I said, keeping my voice steady. "In your future father-in-law's hydrangeas." He laughed weakly. "Babe, come here. Make me feel better." He reached for me. I stood up abruptly. "Can't. I have a shift. You need to hydrate." I walked out of the room. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I went to the bathroom and texted Steve. Me. "Is the offer to scream at someone still open?" Steve. "Always. Coffee? I know a place 2 towns over where no one knows us." That coffee saved my life. I sat across from Steve in a booth at a Greasy Spoon diner. I told him everything. The texts, the dates, the insults. Steve listened. He didn't interrupt. He just drank his black coffee and let me purge the poison. "The duplex is in his name," I explained. "We bought it before we were engaged, and my credit was shot because of student loans, so he put it in his name. I've been paying half the mortgage, but legally, I'm a tenant." Steve frowned. "That complicates things, but it's not insurmountable." Do you have savings? Some, not enough for a deposit on a new place immediately? Okay, Steve said. Here's the plan. You stay there for a few days. Gather your things quietly, important stuff, documents, jewelry, sentimental items, move them out slowly, put them in your car trunk. And then? And then you drop the nuke. Over the next 5 days, I played the role of the doting fiancé. I cooked dinner, I asked Mark about his day, I texted Olivia and sent her funny TikToks. It was excruciating. Every time Olivia replied, "Love you, bestie," pink heart, I wanted to throw my phone through a window. Every time Mark kissed my forehead, I had to suppress a shudder. But I did it. I met Steve every day. Sometimes for a walk in the park, sometimes just sitting in his rental car talking. He became my anchor. "You're doing great," he told me on Thursday. We were walking by the river. "I feel like I'm dying," I admitted. "You're molting," he corrected, "shedding the old skin. It hurts, but the new skin is tougher." By Friday, my car trunk was full. I had moved my passport, my birth certificate, and my grandmother's jewelry into a safe deposit box. I was ready. Mark came home early on Friday. "Hey, Olivia's coming over," he said. "We're gonna order pizza and watch a movie. You cool with that?" I smiled. A cold, sharp smile. He didn't notice. "Actually, that's perfect. I have something to tell you both." Mark's eyes lit up. "Oh, good news?" "Big news." An hour later, they were both sitting on our beige sectional sofa. Olivia was curled up with a glass of wine. Mark had his arms stretched out behind her. They looked so comfortable, so domestic. I stood in front of the TV. "So," Olivia chirped, "what's the news? Did you get that promotion?" I looked at Olivia. I looked at Mark. I took a mental picture of this moment, because I wanted to remember the exact second their lives crumbled. "I know," I said softly. "Know what?" I pulled out my phone. I had screenshotted the messages before I left the party that night. I airdropped them to the TV. Suddenly, on the 65-inch screen, their sextents appeared. The explicit photos, the messages mocking me. "Mark, God, you're so much tighter than her." The room went silent. A vacuum of sound. Olivia's face went white. Not pale, white, like a sheet of paper. She dropped her wine glass. It shattered on the floor, red wine bleeding into the beige carpet. Mark froze. He looked at the TV, then at me, then at Olivia. His mouth opened and closed like a fish. Mark started. "Babe, I can explain. It's out of context." "Out of context? Mark, there's a picture of your junk next to her face on my television. What is the context? A medical exam?" Olivia started crying immediately. "It's not what you think. It just happened. We didn't mean to hurt you." "You didn't mean to hurt me?" I asked, walking over to my coat rack. "You mocked me. You lied to me. For 6 months." I put on my jacket. I slipped into my sneakers. "Babe, wait." Mark scrambled up, trying to grab my arm. I stepped back. "Don't touch me. Don't you ever touch me again." I looked at Olivia. She was shaking, tears streaming down her face, ruining her perfect contour. "You can have him," I said to her. "He's a cheater and a coward. And you're a cliché. You're the sad little girl who needs everything I have to feel special. Well, congratulations. You won the prize." I pointed to the door. "Actually, I'm leaving. This house is in your name, Mark. Enjoy the mortgage. I canceled the utilities this morning, so the power should be cutting out in about 10 minutes. I grabbed my purse. "Where are you going?" Mark shouted. "You have nowhere to go." I opened the door. The night air was cool. "I'm going to find someone better," I said. I slammed the door. I walked to my car, got in, and locked the doors. As I pulled away, I saw the living room lights flicker and die. I drove straight to the lake house. Steve was waiting on the porch, a glass of wine in one hand and a glass of water in the other. Did you do it? He asked as I climbed the steps. I did, I said. My adrenaline was fading, replaced by a bone-deep exhaustion. How did it feel? Like amputating a limb, I said. Painful, but necessary. Steve handed me the water. Welcome to the first day of the rest of your life. I didn't know it then, but he was right. And I definitely didn't know that the man handing me the water would be the one I'd be walking down the aisle with 3 years later. I woke up the next morning, and for 3 seconds, I didn't know where I was. The ceiling was high and wooden, with exposed beams. The sheets were gray linen, cooler and softer than anything I owned. Through the window, I could see trees. Lots of trees. Then the memory hit me like a freight train. The party, the phone, the photos, the confrontation, the leaving. I sat up, gasping for air, clutching my chest. It wasn't a nightmare. It was my life. I had blown up my entire existence in a single evening. I was homeless, single, and arguably friendless, sleeping in the guest room of my ex-best friend's estranged uncle. Panic clawed at my throat. What have I done? I should go back. Maybe I can fix it. Maybe... Don't do it. A voice called out from the hallway. I froze. Steve appeared in the doorway. He was wearing sweatpants and a gray t-shirt that hugged his biceps in a way that was frankly unfair for a Saturday morning. He held a mug of steaming coffee. Don't do the spiraling thing, he said, walking in and setting the mug on the bedside table. Don't think about going back. Don't think about apologizing. You did the right thing. Your brain is just in shock. I looked at him, my eyes burning. I feel like I'm gonna throw up. That's the adrenaline crash, he said matter-of-factly. Drink the coffee. Take a shower. I made pancakes. Real ones, not that boxed dust. I stayed at the lake house for 2 weeks. It was a beautiful place, a sprawling cabin made of cedar and glass overlooking a lake that looked like a sheet of obsidian in the morning light. It was quiet, the kind of quiet that forces you to listen to your own thoughts, which was terrifying. But Steve made it bearable. He wasn't overbearing. He didn't hover. He just existed near me. He would work on his laptop in the living room while I sat on the deck staring at the water. He would make dinner, grilled salmon, risotto, things that required patience, and we would eat in comfortable silence. He created a safe container for me to fall apart in. On the 3rd day, I turned my phone on. It vibrated so hard it almost walked off the table. 47 missed calls from Mark, 32 missed calls from Olivia, 112 text messages. I felt sick looking at the notifications. Mark, babe, please pick up. You're being irrational. Mark, the power is out. That was low. Call me. Mark, I love you. It was a mistake. She means nothing. Olivia, please let me explain. I miss you. You're my sister. Olivia, don't throw away 15 years of friendship over one mistake. Mark, where are you? I'm worried. Don't read them, Steve said. He was leaning against the kitchen counter, chopping vegetables. I have to read them, I whispered. I need to know what they're saying. They're gaslighting you, Steve said, the knife hitting the cutting board with a rhythmic flack, flack, flack. Mark is trying to minimize it. Olivia is playing the victim. It's the Cheater's Handbook, page 1. I read a few more. He was right. Mark, honestly, you've been distant lately too. I felt lonely. That's why it happened. I threw the phone across the room. It landed on the couch cushions. He's blaming me, I screamed. The anger finally broke through the sadness. He slept with my best friend, and he's blaming me because I was working extra shifts to pay for his duplex renovations. Steve stopped chopping. He looked at me, a small, proud smile on his face. There she is, he said. Get angry. Anger is useful. Sadness is just paralyzing. Anger gets things done. I hate them, I sobbed, sliding down the kitchen cabinets to the floor. I hate them so much. Steve walked over,
wiped his hands on a towel, and sat on the floor next to me. "Good," he said. "Hate them. Let it burn everything down. And then we'll build something new."
Those 2 weeks weren't just about crying. They were about getting to know Steve. I realized I didn't really know him at all. To Olivia, he was just the rich uncle who lives in Europe. To the family, he was the loner. But he was fascinating. He was an architect who specialized in restoring historic buildings. He lived in a small coastal town in France, renovating an old farmhouse. He read philosophy. He had a dry, dark sense of humor that matched mine perfectly. "Why do you help me?" I asked him one night. We were sitting by the fire pit outside, wrapped in blankets. The fire crackled, sending sparks up into the night sky. "Because I know what it's like to be the collateral damage," he said, taking a sip of whiskey. "Your ex-wife?" He nodded. "Claudia. We were married for 10 years. I built her a house. I built her a life. My business partner, Gary, was my best friend since college. I came home early from a site visit one day." He trailed off, staring into the flames. "You caught them?" "In our bed," he said. "It breaks something inside you. Trust isn't just a feeling, it's a structure. When the foundation cracks, the whole house comes down. I spent 2 years drinking myself into a stupor and hating the world." He turned to look at me. The firelight danced in his blue eyes. "I don't want you to lose 2 years," he said. "You're too bright for that. You're too good." I felt a blush heat my cheeks. "I don't feel bright, I feel stupid." "You're not stupid. You're loyal. But now you need to learn to be loyal to yourself first." We bonded over the trauma, yes, but we also bonded over small things. We debated the best pizza toppings. He was wrong. Pineapple is a crime. We mocked the terrible reality TV shows I made him watch. We went for long hikes around the lake, and I realized he was in incredible shape for a man of 51. I caught myself watching him sometimes, the way his forearms flexed when he chopped wood, the way he laughed deep and from his chest, the way he smelled like cedar and expensive soap. "Stop it," I told myself. "He's your ex-best friend's uncle. He's your mentor. He's leaving in a week." But the tension was there. It was a low hum like electricity in the air before a storm. One afternoon, we were in the kitchen. I was reaching for a bowl on the top shelf. I couldn't reach it. Steve came up behind me. He reached up, his chest brushing against my back. For a split second, I was encased in his warmth. He grabbed the bowl and handed it to me. His fingers grazed mine. I looked up at him. He was looking down at me, his gaze intense, searching. The air grew thin. My heart hammered against my ribs. Then he stepped back. "Dinner in 10, he said, his voice slightly rougher than usual. He walked out to the grill. I stood there clutching the ceramic bowl, realizing that my life was about to get a whole lot more complicated. The day Steve had to leave for France came too soon. I had found a small apartment in the city, a studio, barely big enough for a bed and a couch, but it was mine. Steve had insisted on paying the deposit. "Consider it a loan," he said when I tried to refuse. "Pay me back when you're a millionaire, or buy me a really nice bottle of wine." He drove me to the apartment to drop off my boxes. The reality of being alone again hit me. "I'm going to miss you," I said, standing in the empty hallway of my new building. I felt small again. Steve put his hands on my shoulders. "I'm a phone call away. And hey, you survived the explosion. Now you just have to walk through the smoke." "What about Mark and Olivia?" "Ignore them," he said. "Silence is the loudest noise you can make. It drives narcissists crazy. Don't give them the satisfaction of a reaction." He pulled me into a hug. It was firm and lingering. I breathed him in, memorizing the scent. "Take care of yourself, kid," he whispered into my hair. He let go, got in his car, and drove away. I went up to my empty apartment, sat on the floor, and cried. But this time, I wasn't crying for Mark. I was crying because the only person who made me feel safe was flying 4,000 miles away.
The long game. The next 6 months were a blur of work, therapy, and dodging my past. I took Steve's advice. I went full no contact. I blocked Mark and Olivia on everything. When mutual friends tried to bring them up, "Did you hear Olivia is pregnant?" Or, "Mark is selling the duplex," I cut them off. I don't care. If you want to be my friend, we don't talk about them. I lost a lot of friends, but I kept the real ones. And I had Steve. We texted every day. At first it was check-ins. "Steve, how's the apartment? No leaks?" Me. "No leaks, but the neighbor plays tuba at 3 a.m. "Steve, buy earplugs, or a tuba and fight back." Then it became phone calls. Every Sunday. Then FaceTime. We would talk for hours. I would set my phone up while I cooked dinner, and he would be in his office in France, drinking wine. It was 6 hours ahead there. We talked about everything: politics, art, my job, his projects. I watched him on the small screen, looking at the lines around his eyes, the silver in his beard. I was falling in love with him. It was slow, terrifying, and undeniable. But I didn't say anything. How could I? He was older. He was technically family, sort of. He lived in another country. Meanwhile, the Mark and Olivia drama continued in the background like a bad soap opera. I heard through the grapevine, my mom, who couldn't help herself, that their relationship was volatile. Mark was drinking too much, Olivia was insecure, constantly checking his phone, because, surprise, if he cheats with you, he'll cheat on you. Apparently, Olivia was telling people I was crazy and that I had abandoned them. She spun a narrative that I was the villain. "She's saying you were emotionally abusive to Mark," my mom told me on the phone one day. "Let her talk," I said, channeling Steve. "I'm happy, she's miserable. Let her have the fiction. I have the reality." "You've changed," my mom said. "You sound tougher." I am.
6 months post-breakup, Steve called me on a Tuesday. "I have a proposition," he said. "Is it illegal?" "Not in most countries. I have a gala to attend in New York next month. Architectural Digest thing. I need a +1, and I hate making small talk with strangers. Fly out? I'll cover the flight." My heart did a somersault. New York? New York. Fancy dress, open bar, and "I'd really like to see you." The way he said, "I'd really like to see you," low, soft, vulnerable, made my decision for me. "I'm in," I said. I spent a week's salary on a dress. It was emerald green silk, backless, with a slit up the thigh. It was a revenge dress in spirit, even if Mark wasn't going to see it. I flew to New York. Steve sent a car to pick me up. When I got to his hotel, the Plaza, because of course it was, my stomach was in knots. I knocked on his suite door. He opened it. He was wearing a tuxedo, and oh my God, he looked at me. His eyes widened. He scanned me from top to bottom, and for the first time, he didn't look at me like a friend or a niece or a victim. He looked at me like a man looks at a woman he wants. "Wow," he breathed. "Hi," I squeaked. "You look devastating," he said. "Devastating is good? Devastating is dangerous." He smiled, stepping aside. "Come in." That weekend in New York changed everything. The gala was a blur of champagne and cameras. Steve introduced me to everyone as his dear friend, but his hand never left the small of my back. He was protective, attentive, and magnetic. We danced. He held me close. I could feel the heat radiating off of him. "You okay?" he whispered in my ear. "I'm great," I whispered back. Later that night, we were back in the hotel suite. The adrenaline was high. We were both a little buzzed from the champagne. I was taking off my earrings in front of the mirror. I saw him in the reflection, watching me. "Thank you for coming," he said. "Thank you for inviting me.
It beats watching Netflix alone. He walked over to me. He stood behind me, his hands hovering over my shoulders, but not touching. "I have to tell you something," he said. His voice was tight. "And if it ruins our friendship, I'm sorry, but I can't keep pretending." I turned around to face him. "Pretending what?" "That I only want to be your friend." My heart stopped. I know the age difference is significant. I know the family connection is messy. I know you're still healing. I've tried to be the good guy. I've tried to keep my distance, but God, I have missed you every single day for 6 months. I looked up at him. "Steve, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know." I didn't say anything. I stepped forward and kissed him. It wasn't a tentative movie kiss. It was hungry. It was 6 months of repressed emotion, trauma bonding, and pure attraction colliding at once. He froze for a second. Then he groaned, a low, primal sound, and wrapped his arms around me, lifting me off the ground. We didn't leave the hotel room for the rest of the weekend.
We decided to keep it a secret. "If we tell them now," Steve said, lying in bed with me, tracing shapes on my arm, "it'll be a scandal. They'll say I groomed you. They'll say you're rebounding. We need to be sure this is real before we let the wolves in." "It feels real," I said. "It is real." He kissed my forehead. "So let's protect it." For the next year, we lived a double life. I kept my apartment, I went to work, I saw my friends, but every few weeks I would visit a friend out of town. I went to France, he came to the States, we met in London, in Italy, in random cities where no one knew us. It was the most romantic year of my life. I fell in love with his mind, his patience, and yes, the sex was life-altering. Turns out, experience counts for a lot. But more than that, he helped me rebuild my confidence. He encouraged me to apply for a better job, which I got. He celebrated my wins. He never made me feel small. Mark and Olivia were still a train wreck. Olivia had reached out to me a few times via email since she was blocked everywhere else. "Olivia, I heard you're seeing someone. Who is he? I hope he treats you better than Mark did. Sorry, LOL." I didn't reply. Then came the proposal. It was in France, at his farmhouse. We were in the garden, drinking wine, and watching the sunset over the lavender fields. "I don't want to do the long distance anymore," he said. "Me neither," I sighed. "But my visa." I have a solution for that." He pulled out a ring. It wasn't a giant diamond. It was a vintage sapphire, Art Deco style, classy and unique. "Marry me," he said. "Move here. Let's build this house together. Let's be the scandal of the century." I laughed, tears streaming down my face. Yes, let's be the scandal. We were engaged. Now came the hard part, the reveal. We waited another 6 months before the wedding. We wanted to plan it perfectly. We decided to hold the wedding in Nice. It was neutral ground, but close to Steve's home. We sent out the invitations 3 months in advance. The envelope was heavy, cream-colored cardstock with gold lettering. Stephen J. Reynolds and my name request the honor of your presence. We sent one to Olivia's parents, Steve's half-brother. And because we were feeling particularly petty, and because Steve said, if we don't invite them, they'll say we were afraid, we sent an invite to Olivia and Mark. I can only imagine the scene when that envelope arrived at their duplex. According to my cousin, who was still in the group chat, it was nuclear. Cousin, OMG, did you see the group chat? Olivia is losing her mind. She thought Steve was marrying some French woman. She didn't know it was you. Me, what did she say? Cousin, she said it's incest. It's not. You aren't blood related. She said you're doing this to spite her. She's hyperventilating. Me, is she coming? Cousin,
She says she wouldn't miss it for the world. She wants to object or something dramatic. Mark is apparently silent. I showed the texts to Steve. He laughed. Let her object. I hired security. Big guys. Ex-military. If she makes a sound, she's out. Are you nervous? About marrying you? No. About seeing my family implode? A little, but it'll be entertaining. The weeks leading up to the wedding were a mix of bliss and anxiety. I was moving my life to France. I was learning the language. I was becoming the mistress of a beautiful estate. But the looming confrontation with Mark and Olivia was always there. I hadn't seen them face to face since the night I walked out of the duplex 2 years ago. I wondered how I would feel. Would I be angry? Sad? Or would I just feel nothing? The wedding weekend arrived. Guests started flying in. My parents were there, confused but happy that I was marrying a rich architect. Steve's friends were charming and welcomed me instantly. Then, the night before the wedding, at the rehearsal dinner, I saw them. They walked into the hotel lobby. Mark looked tired. He had gained weight. His eyes looked dead. Olivia was manic. She was too thin, her hair was bleached too blonde, and she had a frantic energy about her. She was clutching Mark's arm like a lifeline. They spotted me across the lobby. I was wearing a white cocktail dress, holding Steve's hand. I stood tall. Olivia stopped. Her jaw dropped. I smiled. A genuine, radiant smile. Hello, niece. I didn't say it out loud, but I projected it with my eyes. She looked at Steve, then at me, then at the ring on my finger. She looked like she was going to be sick. Ready for the show? Steve whispered to me, squeezing my hand. Born ready,
I said. The morning of my wedding did not start with panic. It started with croissants. I sat on the balcony of the bridal suite at the Villa Efrussi de Rothschild. The sun was rising over the French Riviera, painting the sky in strokes of pink and gold. I was wearing a silk robe that cost more than my first apartment's rent, eating a flaky, buttery croissant and drinking fresh orange juice. My bridesmaids, 2 friends from my new job and my cousin Sarah, were buzzing around me, steaming dresses and drinking mimosas. "Are you nervous?" Sarah asked, pinning a loose curl back. "No," I said honestly. "I feel inevitable." And I did. Marrying Steve didn't feel like a choice anymore. It felt like gravity. But there was a small, dark knot in my stomach. Not about the marriage, but about the audience. I knew they were here. I hadn't spoken to Mark or Olivia since the hotel lobby sighting the night before. Steve had told me that they requested a room change because their view wasn't good enough, but the hotel was fully booked, so they were stuck in a room overlooking the dumpsters. Karma works in mysterious, smelly ways. "Okay, hair and makeup is here," Sarah chirped. The next 3 hours were a blur of brushes, sprays, and lace. When I finally looked in the mirror, fully dressed, I gasped. The dress was a masterpiece. It was a Gallia Le Havre custom design. Fitted bodice, plunging back, intricate lace that looked like sea foam against my skin. It was sexy, elegant, and powerful. It was the dress of a woman who knows exactly who she is. "You look like a queen," my mom said, tearing up. "A vindictive, beautiful queen." "Thanks, Mom," I laughed. "Now go out there and make them cry." The ceremony was held in the gardens. White chairs were arranged in rows facing the sea. The air was filled with the scent of jasmine and the sound of a string quartet. Steve was waiting at the altar. I could see him from the holding area. He looked devastatingly handsome in his tuxedo. He was laughing at something his best man, his old business partner from France, said. He looked relaxed. Then the music changed. The guests stood up. My dad offered me his arm. "Ready, pumpkin?" "Ready, Dad." We stepped out. The walk down the aisle is usually a blur for brides. They say you only see your groom. And I did see Steve. His eyes locked onto mine immediately, filled with tears and pride. But I also have
excellent peripheral vision. As I walked past the rows of friends and family, I scanned the crowd. Row 1, my mom crying. Row 2, Steve's friends smiling. Row 3, my work friends filming with their phones. Row 4, the family row. There they were. Mark was sitting on the aisle seat. As I got closer, I saw his reaction. His jaw went slack. His eyes raked over me, the dress, the hair, the confidence. He looked like a man dying of thirst watching a bottle of water being poured into the sand. He looked full of regret. And next to him, Olivia. She was wearing a dress that was slightly too pale to be appropriate for a wedding guest, a champagne color that bordered on white. Typical. But she wasn't looking at my dress. She was looking at my face. And then she looked at Steve, and then back at me. As I passed them, barely 3 feet away, I turned my head slightly, just a fraction. I made eye contact with Olivia, and I winked. It was a tiny, microscopic movement, but it hit her like a bullet. I heard a gasp, a sharp intake of breath that sounded like a hiccup. I kept walking. I reached the altar. Steve took my hands. "You okay?" "Perfect," I said. The officiant began to speak. "We are gathered here today," and that's when the sound happened.
It started as a cough, a wet, gagging cough. The officiant paused. People turned their heads. Then it happened again, louder. Herk! I looked over Steve's shoulder. In the 4th row, Olivia had clamped a hand over her mouth. Her face had turned a vivid shade of green. She was doubled over. Mark was whispering frantically to her. Liv, stop it, you're making a scene." She shook her head, her eyes bulging. She tried to stand up. Blech! It happened. She vomited. Into her hands, onto her champagne dress, onto the expensive cobblestones of the villa. A collective gasp went through the crowd. "Oh my God," someone whispered. Olivia stumbled into the aisle, retching. She pushed past Mark, knocking into a chair. "I need bathroom," she gurgled, vomit dripping down her chin. It was horrifying. It was disgusting. And it was the funniest thing I had ever seen in my life. I bit the inside of my cheek so hard I tasted blood to keep from laughing. Steve's eyes were twinkling with suppressed mirth. He squeezed my hands tight. Mark stood up, his face beet red. He looked at me, standing at the altar, pristine and perfect, and then at his girlfriend, who was currently bent over a rose bush 10 feet away, heaving her guts out. He looked defeated. He rushed after her, grabbing her arm to steady her as she continued to dry heave. "Get her out of here," Steve's brother, Olivia's dad, hissed, looking mortified. Mark dragged Olivia away towards the main house, her wails of, "I can't breathe," echoing through the perfectly manicured gardens. The silence that followed was heavy. Then, Steve cleared his throat. "Well," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "we say a wedding without drama is bad luck. We should be blessed for eternity." The crowd laughed. The tension broke. We turned back to the officiant. "Please continue," I said, smiling like the Cheshire Cat. "I think the evil spirits have been purged." We exchanged vows, we exchanged rings, and when Steve kissed me, the applause was thunderous. As we walked back up the aisle as husband and wife, a cleaning crew was already scrubbing the spot where Olivia had expelled her demons. I stepped around it delicately, my white dress remaining spotless. The reception was a dream. The food was incredible, the wine flowed, and the band was electric. But the buzz in the room wasn't just about the love. It was about the vomit. "Did you see that?" my cousin whispered to me during the cocktail hour. "That was iconic. That was biblical." "I hope she's okay," I said, swirling my champagne. "You do not." "I do not," I agreed. "I hope she ruined her shoes." About an hour into the reception, during dinner, Mark reappeared. He was alone. He looked disheveled. His tie was crooked, and he looked like he had aged 10 years in 2 hours. He walked over to the head table. Security stepped forward, but Steve waved them off. "Let him come," Steve murmured to me.
Let's hear the apology tour. Mark approached our table. He wouldn't look at Steve. He only looked at me. Can I talk to you guys for a second? He asked. His voice was hoarse. We're eating, Mark, Steve said, cutting into his steak, but go ahead. I just wanted to apologize for Olivia. She had a panic attack. She's not well. She's been really anxious lately. Must be the guilt, I said, taking a sip of wine. He flinched. Look, I know we messed up. I know what we did was unforgivable. But seeing you up there with him, he glanced at Steve. It was a lot. It's not him, Steve said sharply. It's your uncle, and it's my wife. Show some respect. Mark swallowed hard. Right, Uncle Steve, Aunt... my name. The word hung in the air. Aunt. I smiled. That's right, Mark. I'm your aunt now, which makes Olivia my niece. I expect a card on Mother's Day. Mark looked like he wanted to die. We're going to leave. I just wanted to say, you look beautiful, and I'm sorry. He turned to walk away. Mark? I called out. He stopped and turned back, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. Make sure she cleans the pavement before you leave. We'd hate to lose our deposit. He hung his head and walked away.
I thought that was the end of it, but the night had one more surprise. Later, around 11 p.m., I went to the ladies' room to touch up my lipstick. The bathroom at the villa was massive, with marble counters and velvet fainting couches. I walked in, and there she was. Olivia. She had cleaned herself up, mostly. Her face was pale and washed out, her eyes red-rimmed and puffy. She was sitting on one of the couches, staring at the floor. She looked up when I entered. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence was thick with 5 years of history and betrayal. You did this on purpose, she croaked. Her voice was raspy from the vomiting. I walked over to the mirror and applied my lipstick. I did what on purpose? Get married? Yes, that was the plan. You married him? My uncle? My godfather? You did it just to humiliate me. I turned to face her. I leaned against the marble counter, crossing my arms. Olivia, I said calmly, you think you're the main character of my life? You think I dated, loved, moved countries, and married a man just to get back at you? Yes, she cried, standing up unsteadily. Because you're petty. You couldn't just move on. You had to take something of mine. I laughed, a genuine, deep laugh. Take something of yours? I stepped closer to her. She shrank back. Honey, you took my fiancé. You took my home. You took my trust. I didn't take Steve. Steve saved me from the wreckage you created. I looked her up and down. I love him, I said. He treats me like gold. He's a man, Olivia, not a boy like Mark. I didn't marry him for revenge, but I admit, watching you puke your guts out during my vows, that was a nice wedding gift. She started to cry again. I'm on medication, you know. Benzodiazepines. For anxiety. Because of what happened. Because everyone hates me now. Everyone doesn't hate you. They just see you, finally. I miss you, she whispered. A broken, pathetic sound. I miss my best friend. I felt a twinge of pity, just a twinge. It was like looking at a ghost. That best friend died the night you sent those texts. She's gone. You buried her. I smoothed my dress. I have to get back to my husband. Try the canapés, Olivia. They're delicious. Assuming you can keep them down. I walked out of the bathroom and didn't look back. I went back to the dance floor. Steve was waiting for me. Everything okay? He asked, pulling me close. Better than okay, I said. I just closed the book. Did you kill her? No, I just told her the truth. We danced to La Vie en Rose. I rested my head on his chest. I felt safe. I felt loved. Mark and Olivia left shortly after. We heard later from the best man that they had a massive fight in the parking lot. Apparently, Mark accused Olivia of ruining the night, which she did, and Olivia accused Mark of still being in love with me, which he probably was. They drove off into the night, miserable and together. As for us, we danced until 3 a.m. We drank champagne. We jumped into the pool in our wedding clothes. Well, Steve did. I just dipped my feet in, because this dress was too expensive. The next morning, the rumors were already flying. The vomit wedding was the talk of the family group chats. Cousin Sarah, OMG, did you hear? Olivia is telling people she had food poisoning from the rehearsal dinner, but nobody else got sick. Aunt Linda, she's claiming you put something in her drink. Can you believe the nerve? I showed Steve the texts over breakfast. She's spiraling, Steve said, buttering a baguette. Does it bother you that your niece is saying I poisoned her? Let her talk, Steve shrugged. Lions don't lose sleep over the opinions of sheep. Besides, we have a honeymoon to get to. We spent 3 weeks in the Maldives. No phones, no drama, just sun, sand, and us. It was during this trip that the reality of our new dynamic settled in. I was technically Olivia's aunt. So, I said one night while we were lying in a hammock looking at the stars, does this mean I have to buy her Christmas gifts? Steve laughed. Absolutely not. But you can send her a card, signed Auntie. That's diabolical. I learned from the best. He kissed my temple. We talked about the future. We talked about kids. Are you ready for that? Steve asked. I'm a little older. I'll be the dad at the playground with the bad knees. You're in better shape than Mark, I pointed out. And yes, I think I want a family, a real one that doesn't lie. We can do that, Steve promised. We returned to France refreshed and ready to start our life. But the saga of Mark and Olivia wasn't quite over, because revenge isn't just a moment, it's a ripple effect. And the ripples were about to turn into waves back in the States. We got news a few months later. You'll never guess what happened, my mom told me on the phone. Her voice was giddy. What? Mark and Olivia broke up again, and this time there were cops involved. I sat up straighter. Spill. Okay, tell me everything, I said, putting my phone on speaker and settling onto the sofa in our living room in Nice. My mom took a deep breath on the other end of the line. Well, your Aunt Linda lives 3 streets away from the duplex, remember? Yes. Apparently, last Friday night, the neighbors called the cops. There was screaming, objects being thrown. A lawn chair ended up in the street. I winced. Who was throwing the chair? Mark. He was throwing it at Olivia's car as she was trying to drive away. But here's the kicker. She wasn't leaving him. She was going to pick up another dog. Another one? I asked. I thought they got a golden retriever last month. They returned it, said it had bad energy. Now they have a French bulldog. Or they did, until Mark threatened to throw it out the window. I rubbed my temples. So the cops came? 2 squad cars. They separated them. No charges filed. But it's the talk of the town. Everyone knows. Olivia is telling people Mark has anger issues. Mark is telling people Olivia is addicted to pills and manic. Pills? Benzodiazepines, my mom whispered, as if the word itself was a scandal. For her severe anxiety. She tells everyone her uncle's wedding traumatized her so badly she can't function without them. I looked out the window at the Mediterranean Sea. The water was calm, rhythmic, peaceful. It was such a stark contrast to the chaos I had left behind. Let them burn, Mom, I said softly, as long as they stay away from us. Oh, they're staying away, Mom laughed. They're too busy destroying each other. It's like watching 2 trains collide in slow motion.
back up, and then collide again. It was the classic cheater's curse. When the relationship starts in deceit, the foundation is rotten. They didn't trust each other because they knew exactly what the other was capable of. Mark knew Olivia would betray a best friend. Olivia knew Mark would betray a fiancé. They were in a prison of their own making. December rolled around, our first Christmas as a married couple. Steve was big on tradition. "We need a card," he said. "A real one, with gold foil." We hired a photographer. We took photos on the beach. Me in a red silk dress, Steve in a linen shirt, the sunset behind us. We looked healthy, we looked rich, we looked happy. "We have to send one to the family," Steve said, holding the stack of envelopes. "Including them?" I asked. Steve smirked. "Especially them. It's polite, isn't it? She is my niece, after all." We addressed the envelope to Mr. and Miss Olivia, last name. Inside the card, we wrote, "Merry Christmas from Europe. Wishing you peace and stability in the new year. Love, Uncle Steve and Aunt My Name." "Peace and stability," I laughed as I licked the envelope. "That's savage." "It's a genuine wish," Steve said innocently. "God knows they need it." A few weeks later, my cousin Sarah sent me a screenshot of Olivia's Instagram story. She had posted a picture of our card being burned in a fireplace. Caption, "Some people are so fake. Keep your bad energy away from my family. #toxic." I showed it to Steve. "Well," he said, pouring us wine, "at least she got it." The pettiness didn't stop there. The family group chats, which I was still in, mostly as a silent observer, were a gold mine. Every time I posted a picture of a trip we took, skiing in the Alps, wine tasting in Tuscany, Olivia would post something immediately after, usually a selfie with a vague, sad caption like, "Healing isn't linear," or "Real love is hard work." It became a game. I would post a picture of a Michelin star dinner. She would post a picture of her new dog, a greyhound, this month.
I was living my life. She was performing hers. February brought a different kind of nausea. I was feeling off for a week, tired, dizzy, and I suddenly hated the smell of coffee. "I think you should take a test," Steve said one morning, after I gagged at the scent of his espresso. "I can't be," I said. "We weren't really trying hard." "We weren't preventing it either." He raised an eyebrow. I took the test. I left it on the sink counter and paced the bathroom. 3 minutes felt like 3 years. I walked back. Pregnant. My knees gave out. I sat on the edge of the bathtub. Steve knocked. "Everything okay?" I opened the door. I held up the stick. Steve's face transformed. The cool, collected architect dissolved. His eyes filled with tears. He grabbed me and buried his face in my neck. "We're having a baby. A baby. You're going to be a dad again? Are you ready for the sleepless nights? You need your beauty sleep." "For this?" he laughed, wiping his eyes. "I'll stay awake for the next 20 years. We waited until the second trimester to announce it. We did it simply. A photo of 2 pairs of shoes, his loafers, my sandals, and a tiny pair of knitted booties in the middle. Caption, "Our greatest project yet. Coming this fall." The internet exploded. The congratulations poured in. Friends, family, old co-workers. Even people I hadn't spoken to in years. And then the silence from the States. My mom called me that night. "Olivia is not taking it well," she said. "What did she do, buy a Tiber?" "She had a meltdown at a family barbecue. Apparently, she started crying and screaming that it's not fair because she and Mark have been trying for months now and nothing is happening." I felt the pang of sympathy. Infertility is painful. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. "That's sad," I said honestly. "I hope they figure it out." "Well," Mom continued,
Mark apparently told his brother that he's relieved they aren't pregnant because he's planning on leaving her. Again? Again. He says she's too much work. And get this, he asked about you. I stiffened. What do you mean? He asked if you were happy, really happy, or if it was just for show. Tell him, I said firmly, that I have never been happier in my entire life, and tell him that the baby is kicking right now. Our daughter was born on a rainy Tuesday in November. She had Steve's eyes and my nose. We named her Alara. When they placed her on my chest, the rest of the world vanished. The revenge, the drama, the past, it all dissolved. There was only this tiny, warm weight. Steve was a mess. He cried more than the baby. He held her like she was made of glass. She's perfect, he whispered. Thank you. We stayed in the hospital bubble for 2 days. When we got home, our house was filled with flowers. And there in the middle of the pile was a package from the States. It wasn't from my parents. It wasn't from my cousins. The return address said M. Reynolds. Mark. I looked at Steve. Should we open it? It's probably a pipe bomb, Steve joked darkly. But let's see. We opened it. Inside was a small silver rattle. It was expensive. And there was a note. Congratulations. She's beautiful. I saw the pictures. I'm sorry for everything. I really am. I hope she has your spirit. M. I held the note. It felt final, like a white flag. He's leaving her, I said, for real this time. How do you know? Steve asked, examining the rattle. Because he sent this without Olivia's name on it. If they were together, she would never have allowed this. I was right. 2 weeks later, Mark moved out of the duplex. He left Olivia with the mortgage and 3 dogs. He moved to a different state. Olivia, apparently, didn't take it well. The rumors of the breakdown were rampant. She was back living with her parents, Steve's brother. I looked at the silver rattle. What do we do with this? I asked. Steve took it. He shook it gently. Ching ching. We let the baby play with it. It's just a toy. It has no power over us.
3 years have passed since then. Alara is a toddler now. She speaks a mix of English and French. She runs the household. We still live in Europe. We visit the States once a year for Christmas. The last time we went, we attended a family gathering at my parents' house. Steve's brother, Olivia's dad, came over to say hi. And Olivia came with him. It was the first time I had seen her since the wedding. She looked different, older, harder. She was still beautiful, but the light behind her eyes was dim. She was wearing sweatpants and a hoodie, a stark contrast to the girl who used to spend 3 hours getting ready for a grocery run. She saw me holding Alara. She froze. I didn't run. I didn't hide. I walked over to her. Hi, Olivia, I said. She looked at me, then down at the toddler clinging to my leg. This is Alara. I looked down at my daughter. Alara, say hi to your cousin Olivia. Alara waved a sticky hand. Bonjour. Olivia stared at the child. For a second, I saw the old Olivia, the one who loved kids, the one who was my best friend. Her face softened. She looks like you, she whispered. Tears pooled in her eyes. She has Steve's eyes, I said. Olivia looked up at me. I heard you're doing well. We are. Mark is in Chicago. He got married last month to a 22-year-old. I almost laughed. Of course he did. I'm sorry, I said. Don't be, she shrugged. I'm working on myself. Therapy, meds, the whole thing. Good, I said. That's good, Liv. Do you... She hesitated.
Do you hate me? I looked at this woman who had broken my heart. I searched for the anger. I searched for the rage that had fueled me for years. I couldn't find it. It was gone, burned up by happiness. No, I said. I don't hate you. I don't think about you enough to hate you. It was the harshest thing I could have said, but it was the truth. She flinched, but she nodded. Fair enough, I said. Take care of yourself. I picked up Alara and walked back to Steve, who was watching us like a hawk from across the room. You okay? He asked, his hand finding the small of my back. I'm great, I smiled. Ready to go home? Always.
So, here I am. I'm writing this for my patio. The sun is setting. Steve is inside making pasta with Alara. I can hear them singing the Baby Shark song in French, which is as terrifying as it sounds. I look back at the girl I was 5 years ago, the girl sobbing on the bathroom floor of a party, thinking her life was over. I want to hug her. I want to tell her, get up, wipe your face, the man of your dreams is standing in the hallway, and he's going to give you a life you can't even imagine yet. People ask me if I married Steve for revenge. The answer is no. I married him for love. I married him for safety. I married him because he makes me laugh until my stomach hurts. But is it satisfying that my ex-fiancé has to call me auntie in his head? Is it satisfying that the woman who stole my life ended up alone while I got the fairy tale? Yes. Hell yes. Absolutely. Karma is real, but sometimes karma needs a little help. Sometimes karma looks like marrying the hot uncle, moving to Europe, and living your best life, while the people who hurt you watch from the cheap seats. My advice to you, if your best friend sleeps with your fiancé, don't just get mad. Get even. Get happy. And if possible, get the uncle. Wink.